It's great to be kicking off the new year of Coffee and Friends with an unlikely duo in some ways, but obviously they're already well known around the town because they've drawn the biggest crowd we've had so far to a Coffee and Friends morning. So I'm not sure whether that's fame or notoriety. We might find that out soon. So, our guests this morning, according to my notes, are two likely lads from the north of England. Bob Ashford from Leeds in Yorkshire. And Grant Davidson from further north in County Durham. Which happens to be where Janet's mother came from. They took about 6 degrees of separation. Bob and Grant met each other on a bus trip in 1974, travelling from London to Kathmandu. Bob was the bus driver, he was also the conductor, and Grant, who has a wonderful voice, as many of us know, was the singer. They became great friends during the course of the trip. They discovered that they had similar interest in bird watching, that's the feathered variety, I presume, and they each had a sense of humour. Pretty wicked sense of humour at that. After reaching Nepal, Grant continued on to Australia and Bob arrived soon after, and they became steadfast friends. Bob moved with his wife Noreen, who was also on the same bus trip, to Berry almost 20 years ago. Grant and his wife Sue have been regular visitors to their home in Bellawangara, while Bob and Noreen were also regular visitors to Grant and Sue in Sydney when they lived and worked there. Sue and Grant moved to Berry in 2016. And what we're about to hear, I believe, is the tale of their journey to Kathmandu. So please welcome Bob and Grant.
I don't know that I need this.
Yeah.
Do I?
Yes.
I do need this. Okay. So Bob and I, as John mentioned, met on a bus to Kathmandu, and we were great bird watchers, and there's a photograph of us there in the very north of Norway, as we've done a number of bird watching trips around the world, and the photographs that we are taking here are not all taken by us, but there were a number of photographs that are made by others, but we have been taught by the best. And this fellow is being taught by the bird on his shoulder. So, to start with, as Bob mentioned, as John mentioned, I came from Durham. My grandfathers and my father were coal miners, and at the age of 14, my dad was taken out of the pit. Taken out of school and sent down the pit for two reasons. One, to feed the family of 10. One, to feed the family of 10. And the other, to get coal, because World War I had just started. The result of that was that when I was 14, I was also taken down the pit by my dad. And for two reasons as well. One, to show me what the conditions was like, which were appalling, and the second, to show me that if I didn't study at school, I'd end up down there. Of the test that he gave me, I got 50%. I didn't go down the pit. However, I didn't study at school either. So, having said all that, a grandfather was also the church organist and choir master at the local Wesleyan chapel. And for his dedication and his service, he was presented with this baton in 1910 by the people of the local district. As a result of that, music was always in the family, and I started singing as a boy soprano in the choir, and when my voice broke, I joined the basses, along with Bill. And we the reasons that I went to church were, A, was the choir and the music, but that wasn't the only reason. The other reason was the best looking girls in all the villages went there also. My siblings were much older than me, and my sister and her husband migrated to Australia with their daughter in 1958 as 10-pound poms. They came on a boat. I'm glad they did that then, because you can't do that these days. And they came back up to England for a holiday in 1972 and convinced me that I should come to Australia. And I investigated ways of being able to do that. That's when I found this advertisement in the paper. 11 weeks to Kathmandu for 160 quid. And for a further 200 quid, you could island hop through Southeast Asia and Indonesia and come down to Australia. And I thought, 6 months of doing that? I can't even live in England for that. I might as well pay me 160 quid, and off I'll go. So I paid me 160 quid, and I hitchhiked down to Dubrovnik, which was then Yugoslavia. And I was due to meet the bus in Dubrovnik on a particular day. And on that particular day, I was waiting for the bus, and it didn't come. It didn't come the next day or the day after. And on the third day, the Lord said, the third day, the bus arrived in Dubrovnik with this bloke who was driving it, and it looked like he lost his mind. And I'm looking at him right now. And we got on the bus, and it was fine. And there were all these mutterings from the various people on the bus about how, when they got to Victoria bus station in London, where the bus had started, it hadn't arrived. And there was a man there who portrayed himself as Norm Harris, who was the director of the company, who was demanding another 5 quid from all the people because of increased expenses, etc. And the bus was being repaired, serviced, in Windsor, and it would be arriving shortly. It did arrive with Bob steering it, and it managed to get as far as Dover and Calais and all that, and then got as far as Rosenheim, where it hit a bridge. That's why.
No, sorry, I've got to interrupt you. I didn't actually hit the bridge. I was going under it, and they were repairing the road, and of course the height had lifted it while they put the other stuff on it. But you know, they'd only just done that, and they hadn't put the changed signs in it. So what ended up was 14 cases rolling off the top of this. However, you know, we were 5 days out, so they were 3 days out. I went into the local, I suppose it was David Jones there. I couldn't speak much German, and followed by 14 people fairly keen to get another case. And this lady came rushing up and says, "Can I help you?" Obviously, these dirty, smelly, by this stage, travellers there. I said, "Yes, I'd like to buy 14 cases." "Come this way, please." And that's how we picked off.
And so they arrived in Dubrovnik 3 days later, and we headed down to Kotor. And in Kotor, if you know it, we've got to tell the truth because there's a lot of people done this overland trip, so we might get tested later on, and or challenged. So we went up, Kotor's down the bottom, and that's the fjord at Kotor, and we're climbing up the hill to go over the hill, over the Kotor Pass. The only trouble was that the steering didn't work on the bus, and it couldn't get around the corners.
Well, look. My right-hand turn was one of the best. It was the left one.
Yes, that's true. And he made us get off the bus, and we walked on the hill. We actually beat the bus to the top. So the route that we were we passed the route. Sorry, no, that's all right. But then, when we got to the top, there was this bird, and I said, "Ah, a hoopoe." And he said, "Are you a bird watcher?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a bird watcher."
No, sure, but he was.
Well,
I mean,
all of a sudden, you know, these problems that, you know, we had with this bus driver suddenly dissipated a little bit, you know, and we became good friends because we recognised him. And we started taking photographs of birds and stuff. And then we went on from there to...
don't get ahead of us,
to a river in Montenegro, the river Niš. And he said, we're supposed to camp alongside the river, not in it. So, not only didn't he have any mechanical skills, he couldn't even drive either.
This actually was quite deliberate. It's a bonding situation, you know. Get the group together so we got off to a good start, you know. And we hadn't. And this is the opportunity to get on with it, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And those of us with a few more negotiation skills walked off to the local farm, chatted to the farmer in our best Serbian, and convinced him and his neighbour to bring 3 tractors up and actually haul us out of this riverbed. And so off we went then down to Istanbul, which you'll recognise by the pictures of the Blue Mosque. By the pictures of the Blue Mosque and St. Sophia. And it was an interesting time because Bob said, we're going to be stopping here a few days. And I thought, why are we going to be stopping here a few days? We're already 3 days late and it's not on the brochure. And he said, no, he says, I'm having some spare parts flown out from the end to the edge, just so that we can get a bit further. And the difficulty was, we'd only been on roads that were sealed in Europe. And we hadn't been on any rough roads yet, so we were starting to doubt whether we were ever going to get to Kathmandu and whether it was going to be worth the 160 quid. Never mind, we stayed in Istanbul, we went to the bazaar. It took a lot of effort to get the girls out and back on the bus again because they kept going back to the bazaar because their bottoms kept getting pinched as they went through the bazaar. And they went for second opinions and stuff like that. However, we got to Ephesus.
Okay, so from there we were coming down from Istanbul, down towards the Mediterranean coast, which was the nicest part really of the trip because we then followed the coastline all the way. But one of the most interesting things was, we got to Ephesus, this is it, and the, what do they call this place? Amphitheatre, I remember that now, yeah. And a guy named Simon had a guitar, he got out in the middle and started playing. Grant rushed down and started singing, and everyone was absolutely gobsmacked because he's a really good singer, and he was singing all sorts of stuff. That started a process on the rest of the trip, which during the day, Grant would be teaching them songs, most of which we can't repeat here, but some are perfectly acceptable.
Sorry, I was going to go back to Ephesus. It's all right. Not only were we singing, we were dancing. We actually waltzed down the road on some wet tar. This is the result.
It was only my brilliant driving skills and years of experience doing the overland that saved everybody.
Yes. So anyway, having done that and got back in the bus again, we set off down the Turkish coast. This was one of the Crusader castles. What's its name again? Nathan's Castle, yes. So we passed that and then went inland a bit from there. And we camped on a riverbed. Here we are, camping on a riverbed. We were a party of 30 on this bus, and we were split into 10 groups of 3. And you did 2 days cooking, 2 days washing up, and then you had a bit of a rest while the rest of them did it. But that was where you found one of the girls had a bit of an accident and had to find Sandy. Tell us about Sandy, Bob.
So, not everybody been camping before, which was blindingly obvious day one. And not everybody cooked before, male or female, and that was blindingly obvious. So, Sandy was on things, and she was on boiling the potatoes. The simplest job allocated to the simplest person on the trip. And she potted up and said, Bob, the pot is on fire. I said, what pot's on fire? The pot with the potatoes in, which was a great help because they all looked the same. You wouldn't be able to. So I walked around there, and sure enough, there was a pot of potatoes in with flames going on. She had got the diesel can out of the back of the bus. Mind you, it started a whole new series of exotic meals being cooked as we went along the way.
We had diesel porridge for quite a few years. And when we went back to ordinary porridge, people got a bit upset because, you know, they didn't have enough energy to get through the day. So we went from there to Cappadocia and Goramy, and this was the, what do you call it? It's all these pinnacles, if you know it, and it's where the Christians hid out in days of persecution, and there were underground churches here, and lots of frescoes on the walls of these churches, which had their faces gouged out by the opposition. And so a lot of the frescoes were damaged, but nonetheless, some of the colours and the artwork was pretty special. And we came across our first Eurasian roller. We have a relative of that in Australia, in fact, the dollar bird, and I've seen them literally, as we do in the Gables, Janet. You know, and when we did the bird count this year, the roller was quite a feature each day. So we then went, and this was not on the itinerary either, to Nemrut Dagi, and this is a place in Turkey where one of the kings in the 1st century BC decided that he would like to be buried nearer to heaven, and this is the remains of where he was buried in his tomb.
What should be said was I did 11 trips north, backwards and forwards. This is my last outbound from England to Kathmandu. So of course I was going to take most of it, and I'd said to the group when we got on, anywhere you want to go within reasonable things, we'll go and explore. And Nemrut Dagi was one of them. These days there's hotels there, there's buses and all sorts of stuff. Big changes, but it was quite an exercise to get there, even more of an adventure, wasn't it? But they kept stopping us on the way, saying, can we go here, can we go there?
So we hired 4-wheel drives to get up this mountain, and then got back down and on the bus again. We stayed overnight to watch the dawn come up over eastern Turkey on the top of this mountain, and it was pretty cold. But then we got into the desert, onto the mudflats of Lake Van. And this is where we had a bit of fun, because as you can see, there are a queue of people queuing up for Bobby Brooks, who was the quartermaster on the bus, and he was distributing the beer at the front of the bus. It was quite hot and thirsty, so there was a long queue. And at the back of that queue, you might see an old bloke. Here he is. This was a guy that we called Old Bill. He was 74. Oh, yeah. Should have called him old now, Bob.
And we put these together, we said, remember that old git, you know? Oh, we're now old gits, you know.
So anyway, we distributed the beer, and after everybody had had a drink, we proceeded to practice some drink driving. And everybody had a go at driving the bus. People sat on the top, and, you know, but literally everyone had a go at driving the bus across these mud flats.
Well, I stood about a kilometre away for safety purposes.
And so we got a bit further on to the border of Turkey and Iran. And this is the temple of
Ishak Pasha.
That's him.
Let's face it, you could say anything you'd believe us, wouldn't you?
And it's in a place called Dogbayazid, which is on the border with Iran and Armenia. And this is Mount Ararat. We looked for Noah.
It was nowhere to be seen. It's his joke, he told me to say it.
As a result of going over all these mudflats and rough roads and people having a go at driving, the springs needed fixing. So
I have to tell you straight away, this was one of my better trips, really. You know, everything worked smoothly, nothing much went wrong, you know. And what happened was, In fact, the springs went a couple of times, and which is a shame because I got them on special in the Turkish bazaar in Istanbul. I thought they'd be fine, you know. So this lot went off to the local village, sat around the tea house and overnighted there, while I froze with a couple of supporters on the road. This was to happen again in India, but
when we got the springs fixed, we went to Isfahan, and this is the temple of, it's the Shah Mosque, and the Blue Mosque, and the mosaics are just spectacular, indescribable, they're magic, and so we had a good look around Isfahan, and we went further south to Persepolis, and this is founded by Darius I in the 5th century BC, and him and his sons Xerxes and Artaxerxes built this splendid palatial complex. It's a gem of architecture, really, and is a UNESCO listed what do you call them? Relic. Yeah. Yes, one of those. And Donald Trump actually threatened to blow it up recently because he was having an argument with the Ayatollah. Yes, anyway. Moving on to better things, we came across a partridge.
Wasn't prepared to. This is a chucker, which is a type of partridge. If you come from England, who comes from England? A few people. Have you seen red-legged partridges? Yes. One person. Now, 2 people. That's fantastic. Well, these are partridges that go all the way from Europe all the way through, but they change species along the way. So the main thing about these is they're very common. They potter around the campsites and all this sort of stuff, but we were constantly stopping in tea houses. It was the way to break up the monotony of the day. And you'd see them wandering around there, and they are the cleaners for the cats, because the cats there are not like ours. There's no HMS and all that sort of stuff. And they're beautiful things.
Then we went to Bam. It ran out of water, just like we do. We haven't learned, have we? This is an ancient city on the Silk Road. Around 250 BC it was constructed. It ran out of water and was abandoned, but it was invaded also by Afghans. And the people there were great artisans, and it was famous for textiles when it was at its height. There is a city there today, and of about 40,000 people, and it's fed because they found this underground aquifer, and they dug these channels, and the water flows underneath the city, and they make their living out of growing citrus fruits and dates and that sort of thing. And then
we went to the desert. So there's a big desert in the southern part of Iran, and for about 3 days we traversed what is a totally flat desert. You have no idea really where you're going, apart from a few tracks that vehicles have been by, but right in the middle of the desert is this lighthouse. So for quite some time you see it's easy to follow. And we got there and people could get to the top and look all the way around the desert. In fact, they said it's the highlight of their trip. Highlight? And the question was constantly by people, Bob, is it safe going across the desert like this? Will we get lost? And I said, no, there's always marks along the way that help you set you off in the right direction. And then we continued through, we're heading now into pretty rugged country, and I mean that in terms of the peoples there. They were living on zip, and we were getting into some wild country. We camped up in the middle of the desert that night, put the tents up, got the beer out, we were having a good time, and then all of a sudden these army blokes rolled up, surrounded us with guns and machine guns, and we thought, bloody hell, what's going on? And they said, don't camp here, you're crazy. And we went into this fort and stayed there and looked after them and had a safe night. Then we headed off into Pakistan. We had we had thanked the soldiers before with 2 cases of beer, which seemed very generous, exceptionally generous considering we had none left after that. So from there, we stopped at the various tea houses, and from that headed in to Afghanistan. This was wild country. We now felt we were out of European influence and definitely into sort of Middle Eastern experience. And we passed this, or actually we stopped and they came to us, this caravan of nomads, Afghanis. There were probably at least 200 camels there. The highlight of the day, apart from the lighthouse, and we don't know why they were moving. None of them speak English, but they're obviously migrating to somewhere else. And then we get to Afghanistan, sorry, to Kabul, and you're expecting a big city, and it wasn't like that. Yes, they were building, but it was ancient. You can see construction just starting to take place there, and there's cars, but really most of it was like this. You know, people wandering around with camels and bargaining on the street, etc. And then, of course, the bush carting.
Yes, this is the Afghani version of the MCG, and it's where they play rugby with a decapitated goat on horseback. You know, the men are on horseback, but the decapitated goat acts as the rugby ball, and you've got to drag it across the tri-line, you know, and they use whips. So everybody, including the horses, came off the field bleeding at half-time, you know, because they were just lashed with all these whips and everything. It was quite interesting to be there. Then we went to Bamiyan. This is where the Buddhas are engraved into the mountainside. And they were blown up by ISIS some years ago. They've been restored, I understand. But it was fascinating to see these massive statues cut out of the cliff face. And then further north from there, we went to Bamiyan. And Bandiamir is rather like the Grand Canyon of Afghanistan. It's a magnificent place. It's wild, it's rugged. There are all these big lakes in the centre, and they've got massive fish inside them. And that's when we came across this fellow. This is a lammergeier. This is a bearded vulture. It eats bones of animals, and it carries bones high into the air and drops them from a great height, smashing them on rocks below, and then eats the bones. It's a magnificent bird.
Then we came back to the Bull and headed down through the Khyber Pass, the fabled Khyber Pass. This is the Gorge going into the pass. It's quite a hairy drive, and typical of the country. There's absolutely nothing there. How people live there, I really don't know. But they do. And of course, this is one of the early shared taxi drivers. Or what do you call it?
Uber, this guy.
This is the Uber. This is the seminal start of Uber worldwide. And I was right impressed because there's about 24 people in there. And yet there's good clearance from the ground, so I asked the guy, where did you get your springs from? And then we headed down the Khyber Pass, long winding road, to get to the border of Pakistan, a place called Torkham. A border post. Now you imagine a border post being very sophisticated, very organised. This was it. It's just a spot on the ground, really. And you have to go and find a guy who does the passports and get your way through. And we then crossed into the little town itself, where you can get everything.
This is where you can buy hashish, you can buy a pen gun, and you don't know that the gun's gone off until the bloke points the pen at you, pulls the top off, and you're still alive, you know. That's when you realise it wasn't loaded. But you can buy AK-47s, you can buy anything. Fridges, yes. Yeah. Beds, you can buy them.
From there, so we've been travelling fairly quiet roads. Even out of London in those days it was fairly quiet. Through Europe it was fairly quiet, and certainly through Turkey and Iran were quiet. And then we hit the Indian subcontinent. So here we are in Peshawar at the bus station. When I first did the trip there, I thought, I'm never going to make it. It's just too terrifying. People said, well, how did you get through? I said, well, the only way I could really, which was patience, persistence, and an extraordinary amount of bribery. That way you got through, sort of stuff.
This is where Osama bin Laden hid for quite a long time in this city.
Yeah, that's why I didn't find him, and now you know why. So here we are on the Indian subcontinent, 1.8 billion people or something then, and not just people, but different sorts of birds too. So you've got to get down on the flat plains of the Indian subcontinent. There are flocks, flights of parrots. They're rather like the starlings in England or Europe, and the crows we have here, thousands and thousands of them. This is a plum-headed parakeet, one of the better views, really. And then we went to the mosque.
This is the Badshahi Mosque in Lahore. I really wanted to go to Lahore. It was one of my favourite places on the list when I went on the trip originally, because Rudyard Kipling had written the book about Kim, and Kim's gun was in Lahore, and it was a magical sort of place. But we had a look around there, and then we've got this photograph on to show you the contrast of the architecture on this side of the border compared to when you got into India and you got to the temple of the Sikhs, the golden temple of the Sikhs, which is also known as Hamandash Sahib, which is the abode of God. And you get a free feed there, actually. It was quite nice.
So we're now down on the flat plains of India, and we're heading up into the mountains again. The last few ridges of the Himalaya before it develops into the Hindu Kush. So immediately going up there where it says, hello, hello. This is going to be a bit of a worry. I'm sorry. Check your nerves on the curves, and after whiskey, drinking with whiskey. This is an early version of Don't Drink, Don't Drive campaign. And of course people started saying, oh, what's this road like, Bob? And I said, have a look. So, actually, to be fair, the road wasn't that bad. But there were
Yes, it was.
There were sections on it where the Himalayan rises about 2 centimetres each year. People say, well, that's not very much. It is in the Himalaya. It's constant landslides and earthquakes there, and this is an earthquake zone. And the rule of the road there is the goats go first. 1, they're faster, and 2, they're much more sure-footed than the overland drivers from England, you know. And then we arrived in Kashmir.
In Kashmir and in Srinagar. And we stayed there on the houseboats. This was serene, relaxing, good fun, with small boats like this called shikaras, which was like a gondola that came up to the houseboat, and they sold things like hashish, oranges, walnuts, hashish, tampaks, things like this, you know. So they came up, and this is an example of some of the houseboats, and one of the more luxurious ones that we actually stayed in, and we had a lot of fun there. We stayed there for a few days, and then we come back to India.
Well, we meet the traffic again, and the toll takers. So this was a typical scene as we drove through India, where the guys driving elephants would push their elephant up against the bus and say, "Toll, payment." And I said, "Well, how much?" And it said, 2 rupees and 2 bananas. I never discovered what the elephant did with the 2 rupees, but there you go.
In India, we came to the Taj, which is very well known, built by Shah Jahan for his widow Mumtaz, and it's a magnificent building, as we all know. Then we went.
So we're going to do a bit of politics to it. That's a shot from way back, decades back. Now it's got a lot of scaffolding around it permanently, because the acidity and the pollution of the air is wrecking it, along with many other things, you know. And we'll talk a bit now. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. But for us, when we were going through these slides, one of the things that came is, God, the world's changed. I've been to India about 30 times since, and the changes taking place there are terrible, as well as other parts of the world. That's a shame.
This is Fatehpur It was built in 1571 by the then Emperor Akbar. It lasted for 40 years. It ran out of water. And there was also a campaign that he was conducting in the Punjab. It just, after 40 years, this was uninhabited.
There's still water there, but it's because they built dams. They call them tanks, we call them dams. And it became a very important overwintering place for birds migrating from Russia. Our objective was to go and see Siberian cranes. So top of Russia, India down here, they fly straight down south. We were lucky to see two. They've been going downhill for all sorts of reasons ever since. Overpopulation, suburban spread, shooting, water being taken away, and it wasn't long afterwards that they stopped coming, and they've not come ever since.
This is Varanasi, Benares as it was formerly, and this is a general view of the area where, there are ghats. These are the bathers that are bathing in the water, which is not that polluted because there are a number of birds that come around afterwards.
So, the Holy Ganges, this is like Lourdes or Mecca. People have to come here as part of their religious devotions at some time in life, and quite often, maybe more often than that. It is also where they burn their families, the bodies there. And, they didn't have gas stoves in those days, they didn't all get their spits, but they had employed a very...
The local council comes around.
Perfect clean-up team.
They've got a clean.
So these are griffin vultures. I did a trip once, a 10-day trip down the Ganges, which is fantastic. And I was amazed at how the birds were cleaning up. This is a long time ago now. And there were vultures everywhere. Now there's hardly any, because they've been using a chemical to keep the cows okay. When the cows die, they're eaten by the vultures, and they die. So there's very few left there now, very few. I mean, it's like 95% of the population's gone. India now has another problem, which is dogs have multiplied, and there's more rubbish around, which is a real problem. We have to be careful about what we're doing to the world, is what I think I'm saying.
This is the road up to Pokhara, and we're now in Nepal. And as you can see, it's not much better than the one that was we showed you previously in India.
Yeah.
Lots of landslides, guys repairing the road as he drove past. And we get into Pokhara, and we get our first views of Machu Picchu, the fishtail mountain, which has two peaks, and that's, you can't see that from here, from Pokhara. You can only see one angle of it. This was the first view that we had of a 22,000-foot mountain from a distance of about 10 kilometres. And it's just, wow. It is 3.5 times the height of Kosciuszko. This is seriously high mountains. These are the best mountains in the world. Of the 100 top mountains in the world, I think 80 of them are in Nepal. Wow. And so we get to Kathmandu. We actually made it. This bloke is our driver.
Cost a lot more than I thought it did, actually. So that's the first stage of the journey. We're going to quickly go through a second stage, because then everybody, because then everybody headed off in their own directions, etc., including me back to England and Grant on to Australia. But I'd gone back to England and say, people get to Kathmandu, they just want to hang around, they don't want to go into these mountains down to Jones, see what it's all about. So I went back to England, we started with a trekking company, and I came back out to Nepal, 75, and I was looking for capable people, resourceful people. And I couldn't find any, so I had to call Grant and get him up from Australia, who came up. He wrote on his CV, and I said, we better put something together so that I've got some justification. He said, resourceful, sociable, I can sing, charming. I mean, charming, did you write that? Anyway, he put it down, he got the job. And I got a few other guys from out there who were also on the trips, we won't tell you the names, but they were there as well, they came out to help. and we started this trekking operation. And I employed a guy called Chotri, Everest climber. These guys look after everything. They feed you, they water you, and all this sort of stuff. And when Grant and I were getting all the supplies together for his first trek, there's a long list of, you know, rice, beans, eggs, all this sort of stuff. And at the bottom it said, pineapple wine. I said, pineapple wine? What's that for? He said, look, we've taken them to treks and they're very useful. I said, I've smelt it, I haven't drunk it, and it's been nowhere near a bloody pineapple, I can tell you that to start with. He said, oh, no, sir, not for drinking. We pour on fire, throw match and run. And that's how it started.
And we got up towards Everest, and this is my favourite mountain. It's Dublin, and it is just a real mountain. It's fantastic. And we kept on going from there into the towards base camp, and we get our first views of Everest and Lhotse and Nuptse, which are known as the big three. They're the big boys. And here we are walking up there, but it wasn't all beer and skittles. We had to encounter a few snowstorms as well, and so it was a lot of fun. And when you're leading a trip like this, and you have a few unsuspecting troops along who've never been there before, I mean, they'll say to you, "What mountain is that?" It's Everest, and you know, it was a lot of fun because it was a learning experience for us all, but great fun nonetheless. So then we encountered the model pheasant.
I said to Grant, look, you know, it's a tough trek, 25 days walk, up and down, up and down, up and down, till he got towards near Everest and he climbed up constantly. And I said that there are benefits on the way. The birds are fantastic. And when you get to the top, you'll see this one, the monal pheasant. It's a bird that's spread around the world now, but that is what you will see as it is on the trail heading up into the high mountains in there. What do you think? It's a special bird, isn't it? It's beautiful, absolutely staggering. And then Grant headed off to base camp. So the way the track goes is round up through these valleys coming up here. Here we're at about 17,500 feet. What's that? I can't even remember, 4,500 metres or something. And they camp here. The boots have to come up by yak. Everything comes up by yak when you get into higher altitude. It's the only way you can get up there, apart from porters. But it's easy to use the yaks. And then
we went to Annapurna, and it was just a small group again of lads that got together doing a bit of exploration, and we walked into the sanctuary at Annapurna, and it was just, it is magnificent, as some of you know.
Right, from there,
this was the...
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
This was the start of Bob's company.
Okay, so that was a couple of years based in Nepal, and this is all leading to the one final adventure we'll talk about. And I've not been happy with who I was working with in England, so I decided to come out to Australia because most of my mates there, including this lousy bird watcher who's standing there, and set up Peregrine. And everyone settled down. You know, all the people who'd been on this adventure got married, had kids, got mortgages, you know, and we all said, oh my God, you know, the kids growing up, but what we did in that time was get together regularly and bullshit furiously about our experiences on the overland, and had some good times. So I started Peregrine, was ably assisted by a very experienced person. He's here. Oh, and Noreen's here as well, sorry. No, Noreen was part of the team that helped set up Peregrine. In fact, that was the formative years of Gina Path that she had here for so many years in Berry. The kids said, we want to go on an adventure with you guys.
And they pestered us until we all relented. And we took the children to Kathmandu for Christmas in 1990. And this is us. These are the kids aged from 7 to 13, each 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There they are, all in a row, and just having fun outside the Kathmandu guest house before we set off on a walk. And we took them trekking and having breakfast over these magnificent views. The views of Machu Picchu were just simply magnificent, and there it is again. These are the views you get at that hunt.
There were two highlights. We asked the kids, it was their trip, we were mere incidentals, you understand, the parents, you know, and it was hard work looking after them. We asked them, what do you remember most about the trek? That picture of the mountain when the sun went down. And then I said, what else? They said the green magpie. Tell you a story about the green magpie. It's a fantastic bird to see. When you go trekking or travelling in India, you've got to take precautions because old Montezuma is hanging around the corner somewhere, you know. And you need to make sure you've got the pilgrims edge. Well, Grant had a touch of the Montezumas while we're up in the forests up there. We were sitting having a cup of tea, and Grant had gone off. And then all of a sudden we said, Bob, Bob, green magpie, green magpie, green magpie. And out of the bush came Grant with a loo roll in one hand and his jeans down here. Green magpie, green magpie, you should have seen what I've seen. To which the kid said, well, you should have seen what we've seen.
Anyway,
so the rest of the trip, if someone went into the bush, green magpie, get green magpie, all right.
So we then took them, having done a trek with the kids, we took them whitewater rafting. And this is on the Trasuri River, and it is serious whitewater rafting. It's very cold, the river runs very swiftly. If you run alongside the river, you'd have difficulty keeping up with the flow of the water. That's how fast it's going. And we were all suitably attired, you know, with life jackets and hard hats, except we didn't always stay in the boat. And I was in the boat with the kids, and two of the kids fell out. That was not a very pleasant experience. However, I managed to get one of them. He rescued me. Got me back in the boat again. In the meantime, the other one, which was the 7-year-old, was floating down the river towards the two boats with the adults in it. And I'm shouting, Bob! Young Alex is floating down the river. Bob leapt out in the river, you know, and fortunately young Alex came swiftly into his arms and they staggered back on the shore. And here we are, sort of having a glass of pineapple wine.
You do acquire a taste for it, don't you?
You do, after some. We had numerous attempts. And so here we are, just with the kids, drying out, having some medicine. Then we, what did we do next time? Oh, we went down to Chitwan. And this is a national park on the border of India. And we went hunting for tiger and rhino on the backs of elephant. Plus birds. This is the great hornbill.
Birds are fantastic, so we go off and all that sort of stuff. But while we were down there were some cocky lads that had gone down there. And I wanted to get a picture of the lodge with a rhino in front of it. And they said, well, why don't you get us there having tea? I said, yeah, okay, you just put your table up there and you'll be all right. I said, no. We'll get out of the water's edge and get a better idea of the rhino, us, and the lodge. I said, could be dodgy. This rhino was lounging in the water, got up to have a look, and these very courageous boys. The next picture is the rhino is up and on the way. There's another picture, but I'm not allowed to show that for safety reasons, you know. So we were right in the heart of the jungle having an excellent time. We said to the kids at the end of their adventure, it is now back in Kathmandu before we left, we said, what did you like most about that trip? Was it like what your mum and dad have been talking about for all these years? They said it was fantastic. Which bit was the best? Well, the trekking was good, the trekking was fantastic. And we loved the rafting, that was great fun, you know, now the danger's over. But they all said in the end, what we did like best was getting all the elephants looking for the wildlife. And that was their best choice. So we all celebrated on Christmas Day up there, having a good laugh, and we all chatting and going on. And Jeannie, one of the ladies, with 3 kids there, got up and said, I want to say a few words. She said, this has been one of the best trips we've all ever done in our lives, including that abomination that Bob took us on. You know? And said, everything was wonderful. She said, the most difficult part was looking after 7 kids. Well, 9 if you include Grant and Bob. And that was the end of it. And off we went. And then we came to Bury to round it all off.
and we arrived in Bury. Why? Well, I remember when I first came to Australia, Noreen and I came down to Kangaroo Valley, and we drove through Kangaroo Valley, and she said, "God, this is magnificent," and that picture had stayed with her in her mind, and you two came down subsequently and bought a house in Bellawonga. And Sue and I used to come down there, and we treated that as our country estate, and they used our place as their city retreat, you see. So we kept seeing each other very regularly over the years. And why did we come down here? My sons live in the area. They were in Gerringong and in Bomaderry. The bird life is wonderful here. I don't know if you realise how lucky we are to have the variety of species here. Some of the iconic birds of Australia are here. And a lot of people are passionate about the environment.
Yeah, we are very lucky. We have as many birds here as we do in Kathmandu, if you include the offshore bits. I do a lot of bird tour guiding, taking people out, and they're always amazed at how much is here. It's well worth it. But we do have problems. This is a cane toad. And you might ask, what's this got to do with Bury? Last week I got an email from one of the bird clubs saying, we have caught a cane toad in Bateman's Bay. It's a bit of a shock, and perhaps not as bad as it might sound, but they think it came down one of the fire trucks from the north when they were fighting the fires. It was caught and killed, and hopefully stays that way. But it just shows how easy it is to change, and we've noticed, we were chatting about, we were putting this together, the changes that have taken place on the overland trip. And we're very grateful for being here. It's green, it's lovely. We want to acknowledge people like Landcare, Bill, Stuart from the Forum, and all the community organisations here that keep Bury beautiful. It's so easy to let that slip away. And we just want to sort of mention that. I spent 7 years writing a column about the twitches, which are really manic bird watchers, but bird watchers in general, and thoroughly enjoyed that. Some people hope to know a bit more. And Grant took up singing here again.
It was important for Sue and I to have a choir nearby, and we found the Lydian Singers, and we joined the Lydian Singers, and we put on a concert with David's help in the church here some months ago. I want the Lydian Singers really to realise that they've got to lift their game, because this is Barton Hall in England, where we used to rehearse. And in the drawing room they have this grand piano, and on the winter nights we used to gather around this grand piano, a small choir of about 30 of us, and sing, and it was great. And it's not quite the same as going to Nara. Well, anyway, we still hanker for adventure though, don't we, Bob?
We do, and this hasn't helped at all, to be honest. Quite honest, it's like we become 2-year-olds and 10-year-olds again, having a great thing. And I was saying, you know, this relaxed lifestyle we've got down here, we can't keep doing this. We've got to get out there. We're still young enough. Remember old Bill, that git on the bus in the 74? I said, we're both older than him now. Let's go and do something, you know. And I said, what can we do? What can we do? And Grant said,
I was talking to Craig before he sold his business in Bury, and he came up with this idea. What do you think of this, Bob?
He's on your love. 2 weeks in an open boat without food and water. We both said, that's the one. Mind you, it'll take some serious organising. So what we're going to do now is head off for a nice, ice-cold pineapple wine. And we'll see you here.
To start our year. Thank you so much for all that entertainment as well as the information, and it was just a wonderful presentation. Has anyone got any questions for Bob or Grant?
Want to join us on the trip on the boat?
Okay, Bill.
I have a comment. Your road signs. The one that we loved driving through India was "Hurry, hurry, spoils the curry."
Green Magpie, because that's the song that Grant sang and said, "Hurry, hurry, I've had to hurry."
Yes, that obviously was an Australian trip, wasn't it? With you look at the bus and then a kangaroo.
The guy who started it was Norm, who was an Australian. He started it in 1965 or something like that. And he moved out to England and been there for a number of years. So that was his sort of good old Australia sort of stuff. And also because at that time, most of the travellers were Aussies or Kiwis. But on that trip, I think only about half of them, the rest were Canadians and Poms.
New Zealanders, English were the main staying on the bus. There were some Aussies. It's interesting that the people that do the reunions that we have, and we have reunions quite regularly, the mainstay of those are English and New Zealand. Not many of the Australians come along.
Was the bus abandoned at the end of the trip, or did you know?
Abandoned. That was a 1952 bus, had years and it's still going.
And can you tell us the story of Jackie? Were you telling me that?
Yes.
Jackie?
Our friend Jackie was on the bus also. So we had Noreen, Bob's wife, and our friend Jackie, who lives in Bury, also was on the bus trip with us. So we hope it's been a great.
Have you got any secrets to tell us, Jackie?
Well,
Hey!
Did you enjoy it?
yes, I've been out to Australia before.
That's it.
I'm not used to these things. But I came out to Australia long before this. We got together. And I've been working out here in the hospital because I came out on an exchange thing. And then I have met up with another friend who also with us. And she wanted to do some travelling. So that's how we got on to getting in touch with this man. And we all signed up for, I think, probably the first one that you did with all the Aussies and things like that. Yeah, near enough. And honestly, it was life-changing. Most of us, well, half of us stayed here, some went back to the UK, but they still keep in contact. And we always just say, oh, Swaggies, it's the Swaggies.
Thank you. Any other questions?
The danger in the forest the danger in the desert, was that from animals or bandits?
Bandits, yeah, sorry, shouldn't have explained. It's a rough part of the world. I mean, we were all surprised at how little the way there was in assistance there. Everyone was moving, no one was staying there. And I think if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, then you could get badly hurt, which is why the soldiers came and obviously in before.
At that point, the border post, when you leave Iran, is 80 kilometres from the border post into Pakistan. And in that 80 kilometres, nobody accepts responsibility for it, or they didn't then. And it's a tribal area, and you just drive like mad. And when you get to Pakistan, there are signs on the roadside, or they were, saying, make sure you get to town by nightfall, because it's not good for you to camp outside the town.
Well, let's have another round of applause, and we just thank you so much.